Let me start with a scene that happens every day, and maybe it has already happened to you without you noticing. You open your phone just for a quick look, see someone traveling, someone with a new car, someone saying they're living their best phase, and within seconds your mind runs a silent calculation: I'm behind. And the problem isn't the other person's life. The problem is the price you pay for turning someone else's showcase into your mirror. Comparison, in practice, is like trying to measure your progress with a ruler that wasn't made for you. Each person started from a different point, had different support, had different opportunities, lives a different routine, carries different fears, and often even shows a cropped, edited, and filtered reality. When you compare yourself, you're not comparing complete lives, you're comparing your backstage with someone else's stage. And that destroys two things at once: your self-esteem and your joy, because you start devaluing what you've built and lose pleasure along the way, as if nothing is ever enough. Now think about this in the world of money. Comparison is one of the fastest shortcuts to the classic financial mistake: spending to appear. You don't buy because you need to, you buy so you don't feel lesser. You don't improve your life, you increase the cost of your life. And then the person enters a dangerous cycle: works more, stresses more, sleeps worse, but keeps feeling behind because there will always be someone with something bigger to show. It's a race with no finish line. The antidote isn't to turn cold or stop admiring others. The antidote is to swap the focus from others' scoreboards to your own personal scoreboard. Instead of asking, "What does he have?" you start asking, "What have I improved?" And here comes a very practical mindset shift. Progress is you against you, period. So I want to give you a simple way to make this a habit without complicated talk. Define your victory metric for the week. It doesn't need to be grand. It can be save X per week, pay off a small debt, read 10 pages a day, organize the budget on Sunday. What matters is that it depends on you and that it's achievable. When you measure your own progress, you stop living in other people's progress. Create a 2-minute ritual to celebrate small wins. Many adults, especially after 35, only allow themselves to celebrate when something huge happens. But life is made of steps, not teleportation. If you saved a small amount today, if you avoided an impulse purchase, if you made a more conscious choice, that is financial maturity growing, and maturity over time becomes results. Stop feeding comparison with excess showcase. If you know that certain profiles or certain content always leave you anxious, inadequate, wanting to buy things, or feeling like a failure, it's not weakness to step away. It's emotional intelligence. You don't need to leave the world, but you need to choose what enters your mind. Your mind is where your financial future begins. Exchange comparison for inspiration with a filter. Here's the detail. You can look at a successful person and think, "This shows me what's possible," without thinking, "This proves I'm incapable." When you make that swap, you leave silent envy and enter curiosity. What did this person do consistently? What skill did they develop? What decision did they make? You transform pain into learning. Write your own timeline. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 phases: where you were 1 year ago, where you are today, and where you want to be 1 year from now. Just that already changes your brain, because it stops looking for random references and begins to see continuity. And when you see continuity, you create peace, discipline, and direction. Because in the end, your path is unique. Your story has chapters no one sees. And when you start respecting that, self-esteem comes back, joy comes back, and progress becomes lighter. And you know what's most interesting? Those who truly grow consistently almost always have one thing in common. They're not competing with the world, they're building their own standard, one step at a time. Many people fall into a trap that seems normal, but stalls their lives. It's living waiting for someone to fix things, and waiting for the boss to recognize you, waiting for someone to refer you to a better job, waiting for a relative to help, waiting for a friend to teach you everything, waiting for the perfect opportunity to appear. The problem is that when you depend entirely on others, you hand over the control of your life to things you don't command. This weighs heavily on finances, because you start thinking like this: when I earn more, I'll get organized. When someone explains it properly, I'll invest. When someone gives me a chance, I'll start. And then time passes, the bills continue, and you stay in the same place. Now, pay attention to an important difference. Support is good. Dependence is dangerous. Support is when you're walking and someone helps you go faster. Dependence is when you only walk if someone pushes you. The balance is simple. You take control, but you don't have to do everything alone. In practice, what you do, first, you choose a small responsibility that depends only on you and make it a rule. It can be writing down expenses once a week. It can be setting aside a small amount every month, even if it's little. It can be studying 20 minutes a day to improve your work or create extra income. The goal isn't to change everything at once. It's to prove to yourself that you can start without waiting for anyone. Then you use your support network the right way. You can learn from a mentor, from a friend, from a community, from videos and books. That helps a lot. But there's one rule. No one can do for you what only you can maintain. Someone can guide, but you execute. Someone can refer, but you deliver. Someone can encourage, but you change the routine. And when the urge to wait for someone hits, ask a very direct question. What can I do today, even if no one helps me? Just that question gives you back control. Because in the end, depending too much leaves you stuck, and trying to do everything alone leaves you exhausted. The strongest path is you in command and the right people around you. Excessive pride is when a person closes themselves off to learning. They even want to grow, want to improve their life, want more balance, but there's a silent problem. They don't admit faults, don't accept advice, don't hear criticism, and often don't even ask questions because they think asking is a sign of weakness. But in real life, especially in finances, those who don't learn become mistake repeaters. And repeated mistakes are costly. They cost money, time, and peace. Pride shows up in a simple way. You notice it when someone says something useful and the reaction is, "I already know that. That doesn't work for me. My case is different. No one understands me." Sometimes the person doesn't even say that out loud, but thinks it. And then they miss the chance to improve. Now think about money. Pride makes a person spend to prove something. It makes a person avoid asking for help when in debt. It makes a person hide problems and let the situation worsen. It makes a person insist on a bad plan just to avoid admitting they were wrong. And the more time passes, the harder it becomes to go back, because pride holds you in place. The way out here is humility, but real humility without drama. Humility is simply this: I can learn, I can adjust, I can improve. Humility doesn't diminish you. Humility protects you. In practice, to avoid falling into this trap, do this. First, swap the phrase, "I already know," for "let me see if there's a part I haven't seen." That already changes your thinking. Then, learn to receive criticism the right way. It's not accepting everything. It's listening, thinking, taking what's useful and discarding what's not. Those who improve the fastest aren't the ones who never make mistakes. They're the ones who adjust the fastest. And finally, choose one area to practice humility with intention. It can be finances. You pick a simple topic, for example, budgeting, debts, basic investing, and decide to learn like a beginner for a month. No shame. No trying to seem smart, just wanting to get better. Because too much pride holds you back. Humility makes you grow. Lying seems like a quick way out, but it's one of the things that most destroys a balanced life. Because a lie doesn't just break one moment. It breaks trust. And trust is like glass. When it cracks, you can glue it back together, but it's never the same again. Some people think of lying only as something big, but the trap usually begins with the small ones. Lying to others, saying everything is fine when it isn't. Lying to family, hiding a debt, lying at work, inflating a result to look better. And the worst of all, lying to yourself, saying, "Next month I'll fix it. This is just a detail. I deserve it. I'll make up for it later." In money, this becomes a serious problem because finances need truth, not appearances. When you lie, you run from reality. And when you run from reality, you stop correcting what needs to be corrected. The debt grows, the stress increases, your mind gets heavy, and on top of that, you start living in fear of being found out. The person loses inner peace, and on the outside, relationships become fragile. Now think of a simple story. Imagine someone who maxes out their credit card and decides to hide it. At first, it seems like nobody noticed, but the person changes their mood, becomes more irritable, sleeps poorly, avoids talking about plans, starts making excuses. The lie becomes a daily burden, and what could have been resolved early with a conversation and a plan becomes a bigger problem because it was pushed off. The opposite path is much lighter, even if it's a little embarrassing at first. Honesty isn't just being nice. Honesty is a life strategy. It's looking at the situation and saying, "This is where I am, and I'm going to fix it." When you do that, you recover control. In practice, to get out of this trap, the first step is simple. You need to face the numbers as they are. How much comes in, how much goes out, how much is owed, to whom it's owed. This isn't to judge you, it's to free you, because what you measure, you can adjust. Then comes the mature part. If you made a mistake, you correct it. You can renegotiate, cut excesses, look for extra income, seek guidance. What you can't do is build a future on top of a lie, because lies always charge interest, and that interest is emotional too. And there's a rule that helps a lot. If a financial decision needs a lie to work, then it's already wrong. Because a healthy life doesn't need to be hidden. A good plan doesn't need an excuse. Real progress can be simple, but it's clean. Stopping learning is like driving while only looking in the rearview mirror. You might move a little, but eventually you'll crash. The world changes, the market changes, bills change, the way to make money changes, and those who stay stuck in the past start feeling like everything is harder, even while working a lot. This trap is common after a certain age because routine weighs heavily. The person thinks, "I already know enough. I don't have time to study." That's for younger people. And they too. But learning isn't about going back to school and becoming someone else. Learning is staying updated so you don't fall behind. It's continuing to be useful, adaptable, and more confident in decisions. In finances, this shows up very clearly. Those who stop learning keep making the same mistakes. They buy on impulse because they don't understand how the mind works. They fall for easy promises because they don't know how to evaluate risk. They pay high interest because they don't know the options. They leave money sitting idle because they're afraid to invest. And sometimes the person doesn't even realize they can improve because they never updated themselves again. And there's another point. Learning also protects your self-esteem because when you learn, you feel more in control. You better understand what's happening. You stay calmer. You make decisions with more clarity. Life becomes less confusing. The path here is simple and practical. Continuous learning, a little at a time without exaggeration. In practice, it works like this. You choose one topic at a time. It can be budgeting, debts, basic investing, extra income, negotiation, or even a skill to increase your salary. Just one topic so it doesn't become a mess. Then you create a small habit. 15 minutes a day already changes a lot. It can be reading, listening, watching, taking notes. The secret is consistency, not intensity. And most importantly, you apply one small thing every week. Learning without applying becomes entertainment. Applying is what transforms knowledge into results. Example: if you learned about budgeting, you make yours. If you learned about interest, you look at your credit card and see how much you're paying. If you learned about investing, you open an account and start with a little, just to understand. Because staying stuck in the past leads to stagnation. And learning, even slowly, keeps you moving. And movement, in the long run, becomes a more balanced life. This trap is very common, and from the outside, it even looks like a firm decision. The person looks at life and thinks, there's only one way. It's either this or nothing. Either I accept it the way it is, or I give up. And when you only see one option, you put enormous pressure on one choice and live trapped in what-ifs. In practice, this affects everything. It affects career, money, relationships, health, because you feel cornered. And when we feel cornered, we make bad decisions. Either we decide in a rush, or we never decide at all. In money, this shows up like this. The person thinks they only have one way out to improve their life. I need to earn more, period. Then they ignore other alternatives that together would change the game. Cutting leaks, negotiating debts, creating a small extra income, learning a new skill, changing habits, adjusting goals. Sometimes the person even has the ability to grow, but doesn't see it because they're looking through a tiny hole. And there's another point. Seeing only one option also increases fear, because if there's only one path, any mistake becomes the end of the world. But when you have options, you stay calmer, because you know you can adjust the route. The advice in this topic is simple and powerful. Explore alternatives before deciding. This avoids regret and shows you better paths. In practice, do this. First, when you're stuck on a decision, write down 3 options on paper, even if they seem silly. The goal is to force your mind to open up. Then ask, which option am I not seeing because I'm tired, in a hurry, or afraid? Often the best alternative appears when you remove the drama and look calmly. And a rule that helps a lot: if you're feeling very anxious, don't decide on impulse. Instead, do a small test. Want to change fields? Test a short course. Want to start a business? Start selling something simple on weekends? Want to invest? Start with a low amount just to learn. Small tests give you clarity without putting your entire life at risk. Because the truth is this: there's almost never just one option. What exists is the option you're seeing right now. And when you learn to explore alternatives, you decide better, carry less weight, and discover paths that didn't even seem to exist. This is one of the most dangerous traps, because it starts slowly and seems normal. You earn a little more, improve your life a little, and without noticing, you raise the standard on everything. Then money comes in and goes right back out, and what was supposed to bring peace becomes pressure. Living beyond your means is simple: spending more than you earn, or spending so close to the limit that any unexpected expense becomes a crisis. And the problem isn't just the bill, it's the stress this creates. Because when you live at the limit, your mind never rests. You work but don't feel secure. You receive money but don't feel relief. You live putting out fires. And why does this happen? Many times it's not a lack of ability, it's a lack of clarity. The person doesn't know exactly where the money is going. They run on autopilot. And on autopilot, desire looks like necessity. A food delivery becomes routine. A subscription becomes just one more. Small installments become a mountain. When you realize it, your salary is already committed. And here comes a truth that changes everything. Money doesn't disappear. It just goes somewhere. If you don't decide where it goes, it decides on its own. And usually it goes away. The solution this topic brings is very practical: budgeting, discipline, and clarity between necessity and desire. In practice, do this without complicating it. First, split your expenses into 3 simple parts. Survival expenses, which are the basic bills, quality of life expenses, which make life more comfortable, and invisible expenses, which are those small ones you don't even notice, but add up a lot. Just by separating them like this, you start seeing what was hidden before. Then create a rule to not live at the limit. Before spending on wants, you set something aside for your future, even if it's a little. It's like paying a bill to yourself. Those who do this create room to breathe. And now comes the most important part. You need to learn to differentiate necessity from desire without guilt and without drama. Necessity is what keeps you well and functioning. Desire is what you want. And it's okay to want things, but it has to fit the plan. The problem is, when desire becomes a fixed standard, then you're not buying things. You're buying anxiety, because afterward comes the weight of debt and the feeling of being trapped. And there's a phrase that helps a lot before any purchase. Does this truly improve my life, or does it only improve my moment right now? If it's just the moment, it's often impulse. If it truly improves your life and fits the budget, that's fine. Living below your means isn't living poorly. It's living in peace. It's being able to sleep without fear of the next bill. It's having a margin for the unexpected. It's having the freedom to choose. This trap is treacherous because it doesn't seem financial, but it brings down your finances just the same. When you ignore sleep, nutrition, rest, and movement, you start living in survival mode. And in survival mode, your mind doesn't think well, it just tries to make it through the day. Then a chain reaction happens. You get more tired, more impatient, more anxious, and when the mind is like that, you make worse decisions. You spend to relieve stress, buy to compensate for exhaustion, accept things at work that drain you more, procrastinate on important decisions, and lose energy to do the basics that improve your life, like organizing accounts, planning the month, learning something new, taking care of your health. That's why many people try to fix their money without realizing they first need to fix their rhythm. Because finances need clarity, and clarity needs a mind with at least a minimum of rest. And there's another thing. Ignoring the body's signals usually ends up being costly later. Small problems become big ones, and big problems become expenses. Medicine, appointments, time off work, drop in productivity, lost opportunities. It's not drama, it's reality. When the body speaks and you pretend not to hear, eventually it screams, and that costs time and money. The practical way to avoid this trap isn't to become an athlete or change everything at once. It's to create a floor of care, the minimum that keeps you well. It works like this. You choose 3 simple things to protect your month. Sleep a little better, even if it's just adjusting by half an hour. Eat in a more stable way, without spending the whole day improvising. Move your body a little, even if it's just a short walk. This seems small, but it changes your brain. And when your brain changes, your choices change. You better control impulse, think more before buying, stay firmer saying no to expenses that don't fit, and have more energy to build consistency. And a rule that helps a lot is this. If you're exhausted, don't make financial decisions in the heat of the moment. Rest first. Decide later. Many debts are born on exhausting days. Credit is a tool. It can help, but when it becomes impulse, it becomes a trap. Because it gives you the feeling that you made it, even when you only delayed the payment. And that delay almost always comes with a price, interest, installments, anxiety, and that feeling of always running to catch up. Impulsive credit shows up in small and large purchases. It's the, just today, I deserve it. I'll figure it out later. Installments aren't a burden, but installments are a burden. They just burden you in hiding because they keep adding up with others. When you realize it, your salary is already committed and you lose control of the month. And there's a very important point. The credit card is not extra income. The limit is not money. The limit is permission to go into debt. When you confuse that, you enter a cycle where you work a lot, but the results go to the past, to pay for old choices. To avoid this trap without going to extremes, you need simple rules. First, don't use credit to patch holes in your routine. If credit is paying for groceries, basic bills, or day-to-day expenses, it's a sign your budget has a leak and needs quick adjustment. Second, create a waiting period for desire purchases. It can be 24 hours. If after a day you still think it makes sense and fits the plan, you decide calmly. This time cuts impulse and protects your money. Third, choose a personal limit below the bank's limit. The bank gives you a number thinking about their profit. You need a number thinking about your peace. If you set a ceiling and respect it, you control the card, not the other way around. And finally, use credit with purpose, not with emotion. If the purchase is for status, to compensate for stress, to fill a void, or to prove something, it's almost always a trap. A good purchase is one that fits your month and doesn't rob your future. Now, if this message made sense to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it too. Sometimes a simple conversation at the right moment changes the direction of an entire life.